Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Unit 1, Section 3. This is about New England, Middle, and Southern colonies here in AP U.S. history, flipped style at Cleveland High School. So, let's see what's on the docket for today. Okay, let's start off talking a little bit about the English religious setting. What is going on religiously in England right now? Protestant Catholic flip-flops between Henry VIII and Elizabeth I. Religion is going the way of the king or the queen. Whoever's in power gets to control what church it is. Makes sense, doesn't it? So the Anglican Church, or the Church of England, firmly established under Elizabeth I. She's very adamant, we will have a national religion. Very nationalistic, very hierarchical. It means you had like the bishops and everything. It's very hierarchical in how it went. So very much a national religion. Now there's some really, I guess, radical divisions, for lack of a better word, because it's there on the screen. Puritans really wanted to purify the Church of England. That's where the name Puritan came from, because they wanted to move further away from Catholicism, because the Church of England is Protestant. Okay. They did believe in establishing a state church, which is not a national church, but a state church. But they did not believe in this state church. Just not what they wanted. It was too unpure, shall we say. Then you had the Pilgrims, who were the separatists. They're different. Puritans are not Pilgrims, and Pilgrims are not separatists. You need to remember them separately, okay? Puritans, like it says here, wanted to separate from Catholicism, wanted a state church. Separatists or Pilgrims did not want the state church, okay? They wanted to have individual control of their churches. That's the difference, okay? Know it, learn it, live it, okay? So therefore, they really opposed that hierarchical structure. And James I felt threatened. He was like, the separatists were also kind of called nonconformists. This is what we're doing. You're not doing what we're all doing, so you're nonconforming. Hey, be yourself. Be an individual. Okay. So, enter the Pilgrims, are separatists. They migrated to the Netherlands to get away from the Church of England. Okay. They experienced complete and total religious freedom. Peace, love, and worship whoever you want to. Okay. They had economic reasons for moving, religious moving, nationalistic motives. They wanted to get out of Church of England. They wanted to be themselves. They wanted to be able to worship who they wanted to worship, how they wanted to worship that deity. Okay. They worked hard in the Dutch area. They didn't get paid a whole lot. So yeah, they had religious freedom, but they were really tied there. They really didn't have a lot of upward mobility. And then there was a worry about, okay, we're English, right? The English do everything a certain way. The English have always had kind of a pride to them. Under Elizabeth I, they really got that nationalistic feeling. But right now they're like, we're living in the Netherlands. We're going to be Dutchified. Okay? They didn't want to become Dutch. They wanted to stay English because they're the best at everything. So there was that worry. So they were starting to go, hey, we need to leave. So they cut a deal with the London merchant. This guy, I will take you over to the New World, but you have to work for me for 7 years. Okay? That would be called indentured servitude. So they found the Mayflower, 3 decks. Obviously, it was the working deck. And the middle deck was like the servants area and that type of place, kind of living quarters. And then the lower level would be more of like the supply, the cellar, where they kept all their goods and stuff. 101 passengers on the Mayflower. And half of them weren't even separatists. Half of them were just people trying to go to the New World. So only half of this ship were actually pilgrims. Okay, they almost died because they ran out of supplies. Kind of like, I guess, the god dice were not friendly. Anyway, they landed November 9th, 1620. Problem, I had that in parentheses. Why? There's several different takes on when they landed, several different time periods. It's not really set. So this is kind of the, I guess for lack of a better word, the historical compromise as to when they landed. Okay? November 9th. They went out, kind of scoured the countryside, looking around. And they decided to settle in Plymouth, like you saw in the movie. December 16th. And John Smith is the one that came up with the name for Plymouth. Kind of cool. We already talked about how the Wampanoag Indians helped them out, and Chief Massasoit. And there was some Native American resistance to New England settlement because, the plague. I mean, they came in and started delivering diseases, stuff that their bodies weren't used to. So it was a tenuous help to them. The Indians were like, go away, you're killing us. But the numbers actually fell from 120,000 Indians right there, which were mainly Algonquin-speaking people. We saw that in the movie. 120,000 to 70,000. So it was a pretty significant drop. So, there's good old James I. Okay? So, I will make them conform themselves, or else I will harry them out of the land, or else do worse. A rat to be trapped and tossed away. James I was not happy with his separatists. He's like, I will make them conform. I'll make them do what I want to do. I'll make them sit up and dance, or I'm going to kick them out of the country. Good luck with that. The Pilgrims, as soon as they landed on, actually they started drafting this before they ever got there, but the Mayflower Compact is the first form of government. Not really constitution, it's more like guidelines, right? It's kind of like parlay, more like guidelines per se than rules, which basically they evoke the rights of Englishmen. They're like, we're Englishmen on now English soil, and kind of the rights to governance. So remember the Mayflower Compact. Plenty more in my notes, plenty more in the book if you want to get more information on that. But think about the similarities between Jamestown and Plymouth. Were there similarities? I would think that there were several. I think that Plymouth was a better place to land than Jamestown. I think that more skilled laborers came over with the Pilgrims than they did with Jamestown, but less gentlemen. So there are similarities and differences. So we'll talk about that as we go forward. So Charles I. Charles I is in control of 1625, very determined. He was going to get at them Puritans. So they really served as a threat to the Anglican Church. They served as a threat to the hierarchical control of the Anglican Church, and they needed to be dealt with. Okay, but he gave several Puritans colony charters. Get them the heck out of England. Here, go take some of the new land of the new world. Go away. Take your non-hierarchical self away from me. You hear? Okay. So more than 20 colonies were granted, able to be settled in New England. So all these guys, get the heck out. So if you can imagine, if you look at, it's going to be opposite on your screen, but if you look at New England, where Plymouth and all these places are, the Puritans are going right there. Okay, so these north. The New England colonies were just Puritan, just full of Puritans, chock full of Puritans. Okay. However, the Puritans actually led a little coup and took over control of Parliament in England in 1629, and Charles I dissolves that Parliament. Yay, we gained control! Crap, he killed us. Okay, so they took away from it. It's the power of king. Hey, what are you going to do about it? One of those charters that was canceled, okay? Well, it was canceled. One of those charters that was in effect was for the Massachusetts Bay Colony, okay? Massachusetts Bay Colony, or actually company rather, the colony hadn't been settled yet, in 1628, okay? They're going to land around Boston. Get it? Boston, Massachusetts, capital. Should remember that. Some of you didn't. Okay. Massachusetts Bay. Puritan merchants are, they're really favoring immigration gain. Let me read that correctly. Puritan merchants favoring immigration gain control of the company. Reading's overrated. Okay. They sent out a party of about 400 of their Puritans to go out and kind of explore, see what's here, because we want to favor immigration. Okay. The charter for the Massachusetts Bay Company does not really specify where the company's supposed to kind of meet. To do this, so they move. Okay, they moved from where they landed and moved, I would say, south because they feared the fate of Jamestown. What happened? Remember that they took over the charter, et cetera, et cetera. So they have the charter with them. Okay, so wherever they land, they've got their charter. So about 1630, I guess there's some historical debate as far as the specific number, but 700 to 1,000 people settled around Boston, or Boston, and more than 200 of those guys died in the first year. So, hey, Boston's pretty harsh. But they did not have a starving time. They learned a little bit from Jamestown. The word had gotten back. They were a little bit more prepared this time. So they didn't go through eating the dogs and the rats and the powdered women. But that's why they had advantages over some of the other colonies. They were, if you think about Boston, Plymouth is up here, Virginia's down here. So it's kind of, in between the two. So they're able to still work with Jamestown and work with Plymouth. So it was in a nice split between the two. So, by the way, that picture is from some brand of flour I found. It's actually Puritan flour. But anyway, the Great Puritan Migration. They're like, getting all these charters, get the heck out of town. We don't want you here if you're not with the state church thing. So thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people are leaving England. But 1630 to 1643. Why those years? Okay, that's right in the middle of the Reformation and all this other good stuff that's going on. So they're leaving. They're running out in droves. 1634, more than 10,000 have left England. 4 years, more than 10,000 people have left England. Keep in mind the ships were only so packed, so all these ships taking a lot of money to leave, so a lot of people were moving out. By 1643, more than 15,000 of those have settled in New England. So they must like it there. And lots more women were taken over with them. Obviously, women means babies, means your area is growing in leaps and bounds. Now, I told you I'm going to reference Samuel Eliot Morison quite a bit. Morison said, in contrast to early Virginia, Massachusetts Bay actually attracted disciplined, motivated men and women. It's the whole Protestant work ethic, right? Protestant work ethic. Idle hands are the devil's hands. You got a day's work, or a day's laziness is worse than a day's drunkenness, or something, something along those lines. Protestant work ethic. Know it, look it up, love it. It'll be on the test. Protestant work ethic. Got it? Good. Okay. So moving forward. That's a nice picture. You can really see Massachusetts up there, 14,000 people there. Rhode Island. People actually come through Old Providence down there, under 500. Barbados. I wonder if Rihanna's folks are from there. Isn't Rihanna from Barbados? Anyway. Folks from Bermuda. Bermuda's right about there. You can't see the triangle, but it's right there. And you can see, they only came as south as Virginia. But you can imagine if you were in Massachusetts right now, this is what you'd be saying. Incoming! Because everybody's coming in. So anyway, nice funny picture for your laugh reel. Okay. So, good old John Winthrop talked about him yesterday, or today in class. The purpose of the Massachusetts Bay was to establish a city upon a hill. A city of God. John Winthrop standing in front of all these people doing his model of Christian charity sermon. He's like, we will create this city that is in his image. We will be a city that that he would be proud of. We were going to build a society where, based on the teachings of the Bible, where he can flourish, where he can just walk the word, talk the word, be the word, be, what we need to be in the eyes of our Savior. He really wanted to shame England. Be like, you kicked us out? Look at this awesome, godlike community we've created. This city on a hill where we need to be closer to God. Really wanted to shame them. I wonder how that worked for him. But, he really wanted to set up, economic trade routes on agriculture, shipbuilding, foodstuffs to the West Indies. Because you remember Columbus settled the West Indies. They're going pretty well, and I got the Spanish in Florida. That's a good trade route between Massachusetts Bay and the West Indies. Lots of ships going there, lots of pirates coming over, but trading that way, good money there. But after the Puritan migration stopped, he needed to make sure they had some kind of money-making ability to come in here. And, yes, Xander, they were selling corn. Okay. But that was what he was really set up. We want to be this real Christian society, but we want to be this society that actually functions and makes money as well. And that's his ugly mug right there. Okay? So, what kind of government did New England colonies have? Okay? It was really important that the charter was in the colonies. Remember, they when they left, they kept it with them. So the charter is there with him. Charles I tried to revoke that charter and appointed this guy named Gorges. What a great name. What a gorgeous name. Appointed Gorges as governor of this colony. However, a little thing called a civil war breaks out and really interrupted the plan. So the thing I need you to know about this is that one bullet, that third bullet there. The impact of the English Civil War is that the Massachusetts Bay Colony was self-governing, right? Charles I was like, hey, I'm going to do this. Oh, crap, shiny turtle, there's a civil war over here. So he got distracted. He tried to revoke the charter, got distracted with Civil War, and they governed themselves. They're like, Charles I is trying to do something, but he's not looking, not really paying attention to us. So let's go over here and do what we want to do. Okay, so they ended up establishing as a government a Bible Commonwealth. Bible Commonwealth is different than a theocracy. A theocracy, if you remember from civics, theocracy is one rule under God, right? Where it's basically religious rule. Bible Commonwealth is just kind of like self-governing with laws, kind of like Parliament in England, but it was religious based. Does that make sense? It's not really ruled by religion, but it's just kind of more influenced. Okay? But in the same way, laws of the state must conform and must, I guess, relate to religious teachings, meaning that do unto others as you would have them do unto you, that type of stuff. That's where blue laws came into play. Blue laws, if you're not familiar, like on Sunday, you can't sell alcohol. These are normal. And blue laws here in North Carolina ended only probably 20 years ago, maybe not even that long. But we'll get more into where the name came from and why it was called blue laws later as we move forward. But this is where that kind of came into play. And so therefore, church and state are not separated. Okay? Church leaders still have very great influence. You'll start to see Jonathan Edwards, those guys come into play here in the Great Awakening who really have a lot of power, a lot of influence. And that's still true in the colonies. Not today, but still true in most of the colonies in the New England area. So, and they didn't like democracy up there. They really limited voting to people who were already there, or the elect, or visible saints. Last time I checked, I haven't seen very many of them. So, if you weren't a saint and you weren't an elected member, you couldn't vote. But there was a push, an impetus to extend voting rights to all landowners, which is even more crazy because, the whole head right system, indentured servitude, lots of landowners too. So you might as well just have opened it up to everybody. But obviously we know that women and people of color couldn't vote. So right now it's still just white men. John Winthrop really kept the charter locked up. Okay, so you couldn't change it, you couldn't alter it, you couldn't mess with it. So that was how he protected the voting rights and protected the putting people in power that he wanted in power. Is what it is. And that's their logo, by the way. And look, looks like there's corn somewhere around there. But that says Nova Anglia, New England, in the upper left-hand corner, coming around Society of the Massachusetts Bay. Okay? It's kind of cool. But there was constant pressure from other congregations to expand. Like, we're right here in Massachusetts Bay. We need to spread. So Winthrop starting to feel some pressure. But there was, believe it or not, some religious intolerance there. There's a difference between having religious state religion and being religiously tolerant. Because if your religion is against the state religion, guess what? You ain't welcome in my house. Okay, so they had some issues with that. Freedom of religion didn't even extend to all Puritans. You had to be their way. If you remember, the Puritans were the ones that burned down the Globe Theatre in England because it was too dirty. But they were really specific as to what constituted good treatment in Massachusetts Bay. Look at what happened to the Quakers. Okay, first offense, you were whipped until out of the colony. Get out, get out, until you got out of the colony. Second offense, they Van Gogh'd you, or as they say in Doctor Who, they Van Goughed you. Take your ear, cut it right off. Here, take one. Okay, whatever your strong ear was, they took it. Third offense, off was the head. Seriously. Society of Friends, Quakers, they're from the same religious group. Third offense of coming into this colony and you weren't part of the Puritans, you were executed. They actually killed 4 Quakers. And that's Quaker Oats bear, by the way. I couldn't find a good picture of Wilford Brimley, the other Quaker Oats guy. He also says diabetes. Anyway, so that's really strange to me. Supposedly, the Society of Friends, you're still part of us, but you're not part of us. Kind of double standard, don't you think? So, the Puritan philosophy, that's supposed to be equality. Yay for trying to do this during your movie. Puritan philosophy did not believe in equality. Okay? Really responsible profit motive. They wanted to basically specialize. Because if you got Puritans in one place of the same type of Puritan, you really could go forward and do well. The private property was quickly established, making sure that everybody had their land, make sure if you were a good Puritan, you were able to settle down and take care of yourself responsibly in Massachusetts. The key fact to remember, though, lack of diversity in the population, right? It's kind of like inbreeding, for lack of a better word. Very homogenous. It looks like milk. English and Puritan. What's the other one? Heterogeneous. Hey, Miss Frame will give me bonus points. When you can see the mixture. And really this breakdown really, the homogenous mixture of people kind of really breaks down as time goes by. The Native Americans come in and really kind of breaks that up. But they really tried to keep it pure, very homogenous. So, that's the end of my lecture today. I focus solely on New England colonies and how they set up. You need to read the notes for the section. They go into detail about middle colonies, southern colonies, settlement patterns, etc., etc. I'm going to give you some tips on what to focus on as you go read those notes. First, the founding of Rhode Island. You got to focus on Roger Williams and Anne Hutchinson. Make sure you try to find out about her trial, either in the book. I don't think it talks a whole lot about her, or in my notes, or go look her up. You need to find out how her trial made a mockery of the whole Puritanism thing and her belief of antinomianism. Okay, that's definitely in my notes. And find out why New Jersey's called the sewer. Besides the fact Trenton's kind of a waste, but find out why New Jersey's called the sewer. Maryland, make sure you focus on Lord Calvert, who's Lord Baltimore, and how they became a haven for Catholics, which is kind of unheard of around these parts, because Maryland, as we know, is a middle colony. They came out with the Act of Toleration. He really went out and wanted to get more people in, advertised, and really did well for religious tolerance. So Maryland and Baltimore were good people in that regard. Talk about New Netherland and New Amsterdam. Remember, the Puritans went into Netherlands, the Dutch area, to live. So these are part of that. That's why the New Netherland name came from. And New Amsterdam as well. Eventually came New York and no Peter Stuyvesant. Okay, Pennsylvania, no William Penn, and know the story of how it was founded as the Holy Experiment. Okay, William Penn did a lot of advertising as well, trying to get people into Pennsylvania, because the more people you have, the more diversity you have, the more things get done. Okay, know the characteristics of middle colonies. There's a little paragraph or so at the end of the notes. Make sure you know that, and know the foundings of Carolina and Georgia. The South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia. Know what a buffer colony is. Okay, buffer colonies are Spanish Florida, New England, buffer colonies. Okay, a buffer between the two. Okay, James Oglethorpe, he's the one that established Georgia as a penal colony for debtors, that type of thing, a haven for those, kind of a prison state. And know the Stono Rebellion, 1739. I'm not going to talk about it right now, but research it. Be able to, if I ask you a question about the Stono Rebellion, be able to tell me briefly what it is. Okay? Also know the colony settlement patterns and the colony similarities and differences. Those are about the last 2 pages of my notes. Just read over it, be familiar with that, and just know that the settlement patterns. We talked yesterday about how the middle colonies were religious, the southern colonies were agrarian, and there's kind of agrarian up here too, but they tend up going away from the agrarian society. South really focuses on that. Also, if you look at over there to my right, actually, if you look at the screen, my right, you'll see underneath the notes, I put up a colonial status chart and a colonial comparison chart. You can see life expectancy, where they were, primarily their racial breakdown, and also the status of each one of the original colonies, what they were founded as, what year they were founded, and what they eventually became. Really good information to have. Great SFI when you're talking about, because I can go ahead and tell you one of the essays on the first test will be about, royal proprietary charter, that type of stuff. So make sure to be familiar with that. Not really going to test you on it tomorrow, but just make sure you're familiar with it and know what's going on. You can print them off, keep it handy. Also, for you note takers or you card makers, I actually put up there Unit 1 names and terms I need you to know. I was one that was always a flashcard maker. I put a name on it and flip over it and study it that way. I can guarantee you there's a matching section, pretty extensive matching section on the test, and my matching terms are not very obvious. So make sure you know those names and terms on that sheet. There are quite a few of them, but you've got 2 weeks to study them, so that's fine. And you'll see them as we go a course of my lectures. They'll start making sense. And the last thing, I just want you to have good luck. This is, like I told you today, do not be stressed about anything. I'm always around if you have questions. This is, I want you to learn, and I want you to learn in a very balanced and very, soothing environment. I don't want you stressed. When people stress, you shut down. Not good. Okay, bear with me. This is going to be a blast. We're going to have a lot of fun, and these things are going to start happening pretty quickly. Okay, see you guys tomorrow. And since we're talking about New England and how English people are better than everything else, I got to end with the doctor. Okay, the doctor who dresses a joker. Now your argument is obviously wibbly wobbly timey wimey. If you don't know who he is, look it up. It's pretty awesome. So, nothing else. Peace out, Girl Scout, and we'll see you tomorrow.